Don't ever say to yourself, I can't do it. You need to start looking at what you want in life, aim for one thing, achieve that one goal, and then move on to the next. The easiest ways that I found today is to get into a trade.
Confidence is built on having achieved what you set out to do and knowing that you're capable of doing it again and again.
And I think as young adults, we need to actually turn things off and go, what do I actually want in life?
Welcome back on the Canadian Dream Podcast. Today I am with Mark Hirschi, a Canadian entrepreneur. He owns a few businesses here in Vancouver, BC, Canada. We're going to talk about his businesses, his podcast, mentorship program. We're going to talk a little bit about mindset, about our families, about our values. So stick with us. This is going to be a great conversation. Mark, thank you for coming on the Canadian Dream Podcast.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here today.
How does it feel to be on that side?
It's a different vibe. I remember when you were sending me some of the questions, I thought, man, I'm the one who creates the run sheets. I'm usually the one that's going, hey, here you go, Elton. Here's all the questions for the podcast that we're going to do together.
Yeah. So for some context here for our audience, you do a lot of things. You own a few companies, but you also have a podcast with how many episodes did you already record?
We have done well over almost 250 episodes.
250 episodes. 250 plus.
Yeah, right.
Let's not underestimate the plus, because we were talking about this behind the scenes. If you published more than 5 or 6 episodes of a podcast, you are already in the top 5% worldwide.
For sure.
And you did at least 250.
Right. And it's a lot about consistency, right? And that really goes farther in how you run your life, how you are daily. But when I always hear, oh, I'm going to start a podcast, they always go, I'm going to get everything set up and they get this going. And then they publish 1 or 2 episodes because they're super excited. They'll get their friends, they'll get some business associates that they know, they come on the show and they hammer out like 4 or 5 episodes in a month, and then they realize, oh, this is a lot of work, and they get busy, and then they have no episodes for another year.
And then only 3 views, and 2 people like them on LinkedIn.
Which is always the worst. It's the worst feeling when you go through all this work and you publish it, and you have like 6 people that have watched your episode.
It takes years, I think, to get traction if you do things right. Sure. And because I also see a lot of podcasts, and it sounds so weird to talk about my podcast on my podcast
right.
and your podcast. But if you're doing the same thing wrong over and over and over again, don't expect the results to get any better with time.
For sure.
Let's go back. Beginning. First, what companies do you own or are you involved with right now?
8 years ago, I purchased Salmon's Transfer, which is now Salmon's Moving and Storage. And then last August, I acquired Ellis Moving and Storage, located in North Vancouver. Both 2 amazing legacy moving companies. Salmon's has been around since 1913. We're the pioneers of the moving industry here in BC. And Ellis has been around since 1980. Also was a family-owned company with several brothers, the Ellis family, and they did a fantastic job for 45 years until they all want to retire, and I kind of swoop in on those retirements and then take it from the level that they couldn't exceed to the next, and come in with my background in sales and marketing and branding and take it to 2026
and the next level. We are going to talk about the moving companies, the moving industry. We're going to talk about other ventures that you are involved with, and the podcast.
And Movified Podcast. Sure. We got a whole full circle of...
So now some people might know you as the king of the moving industry.
Right, sure.
But let's go back a little bit in time, because when I have people here on the podcast, I'm very curious about what made them become who they are today. What kind of kid were you, and how did you discover this passion for branding and marketing and business.
Right. So I grew up in a local city nearby called Surrey, living in a cul-de-sac or living in a neighborhood growing up where you would go and knock on someone's door. Hey, you know, can Sally come out and play, or is Chris available to come out? And you played soccer on the streets and baseball, and you do the road hockey, and everybody would move the hockey stick and the hockey nets out of the way. But you also relied on trust. When you want to meet with friends, you would have to, set a time and a date. If you weren't home, you missed that call, you missed the call. But we also got to evolve into a civilization where computers came up during high school. We are getting to experience this amazing opportunity with AI, the availability of what that looks like in business, but also what's the world looking like. We've experienced a global virus that came out. We've seen the housing crisis. There's been so much that's happened in our 40 plus years in our lives that when I look back as growing up, I grew up in a very Christian family. My father was an entrepreneur. He was always working all the time, also heavily involved in the church that we belonged to, and a mother that worked. And, I had a sister. We had a great upbringing, but it wasn't until later in elementary school where I was asked to draw a picture. And I started really liking drawing. I really started to enjoy drawing and the creativeness and exploring the art behind pictures and dissecting them and learning how to take a picture of a cup. And then one of my famous artists is Salvador Dali. So I was like, how can I have it where if I'm drawing this boring cup, there would be a character that would come out, but you had to look really closely to see the little character that was coming out of the cup. And that evolved into high school where I wanted to work at Disney. It's pivoted to, there's this new technology coming out. There's things called websites and the internet. And I got introduced to the moving industry because my father had known a gentleman in his family. That gentleman did sales for a small van line company. So I built him the website. I saw what they needed to do. We had to update their brochures, their business cards, do a full nice rebrand. And we're talking the days where people were building on Dreamweaver and
the
Flash. And it was a much harder setup than going on like lovable.ai and typing in a prompt and boom, here's your landing page and your website's done in seconds. You had to go to school for coding and learn how to build websites and slice and cut things. But it led me to building a website for a moving company, to them going, hey, we have other agents that need websites to get done.
And when did you decide to become an entrepreneur?
Early 20s, when I realized I hated working for someone. It was one of those things where I just thought I could do it better.
Better than your boss?
Better than my boss. I always just kind of saw a sense where if I could understand it and I could figure it out, then why not just do it for myself? I watched my dad do it for his own businesses, and he, very European. I come from a German and Swiss background, very hardworking Swiss.
Ich auch.
Oh, really? Yeah, so,
did you know that?
No, I didn't. So there you go.
And you know what else? I was telling him, before we started recording, we have a lot in common. You know what else? I was an illustrator for a few years. I illustrated books. And one of my biggest dreams was to go and draw cartoons for Disney.
No way.
Conan the Barbarian.
Right.
And X-Men. I used to draw Wolverine and
This
Conan.
isn't staged, everybody. This is not staged. Wolverine, hands down, was always my favorite character.
Really?
I was in Universal Studios in Florida about a month ago for a conference. Brought my son along, and there was like this whole Marvel area, and Wolverine was there. I was like, I gotta take a photo with Wolverine. I'm like, get in here. I'm like, get the claws. Yeah. Hands down. I used to draw X-Men all the time.
Me too, all the time. Yeah. And before X-Men, Conan the Barbarian.
Well, the new Conan movie's coming out as well too.
My goodness, wow. Yeah, there you go. We have a lot more
We
in
have a lot
common than you
more in
think.
common, for
By
sure.
the way, my son is 6. Yours, one of yours is 5.
Is just about turning 6, and I have another one that's 8, turning 9, and then a little 3-year-old daughter.
Oh,
So
sweet.
full house, full house.
Okay, so back, you decided to become an entrepreneur. You thought you could do things better, but your background was in marketing, eh? And
The reality is, I really kind of took an approach of going, I want to be a business owner, basically from learning what not to do. And that really led me to, I got hired for a moving company called Action Movers back in about 2006, 2007 to do their branding and their marketing. I already had a good sales background. I was always hustling in high school. I had 3 different jobs that I would only work 1 day a week at because I knew I could get 50% off on clothing if I worked at this store. I got free food if I worked at that restaurant. And then I worked at the local movie theater that just opened up and didn't even do popcorn or rip tickets. I said I have art as my background, and so they basically had me come in on every movie premiere and do the art decor for the movies that were coming out. And I walked in like a big hot shot, being like 19 years old, doing this. But it gave me like free movies. So dates were fantastic for me because I was like, hey, let's go to this restaurant and let's go to this movie theater. But when I started working for the moving company, he eventually said, I need someone to run operations. And I kind of did something that was before Undercover Boss was around. And I said, well, for me to understand the industry, which I wasn't a mover, my dad wasn't a mover, I actually thought the moving industry was subpar to where I wanted to be in my life. But I wanted to get an understanding, so I worked with all the drivers, and I was the helper. I worked with all the helpers, and I was the driver, and then had a big staff meeting. And here's this young kid, early 20s, having this meeting with 15, 20 guys that were double my age, going, I'm going to keep you, you're fired, and then turning to the operations manager who was in his 60s and going, I'm taking your job. Wow. And it was a big shock to everybody, but the owner had trust in me. And so I went back to the owner. I said, look, in order for me to do this, I want 7% of everything that I bring in. And at that time, he had 2-3 trucks. It was about February of 2007. And by the summertime, he was blacklisted in all the storage facilities. We were relisted in all of them. We were renting another 10 trucks. And it was just a change. I saw where things needed to get changed, and it was having a skill set to talk, not be the sleazy car salesman,
to persuade,
but to have a personality that someone is going to trust you. And I think that goes a long way in any kind of business. It's a way for yourself when you're going to meet with a new client or a potential client, saying, we will provide you with the best multimedia services and recordings possible. We did this before. What happened? You're like, Mark, don't lean too much. We want you to look really good on camera. We want to make sure that, the status, you're on camera, you're going to be 10 pounds heavier. We actually want you to look 10 pounds lighter. There's this sense of trust when you're sitting across the table from someone to say, this is what I'm going to offer and I'm going to follow through with it, as opposed to going, look, I'm going to give you the best deal, and and we're going to take care of this, and we're going to do this and do this for you, and then fall short on half of them. It was quite a run, and you also had nobody to turn to in the industry. The moving industry is one of those weird trades that is there, but hasn't evolved like HVAC or the painting industries or the flooring companies. We are in a trade that is slowly evolving now and like coming to it because nobody was talking. If I phoned a moving company here locally in Vancouver in 2008, they would always go, yeah, we're super busy and things are going well. And you go, well, can you help me with like WCB and how do you deal with employees? Oh, we don't really share secrets. And that was also a big thing why I started a podcast and why
you do the opposite.
And I try to do the opposite now because now it's so readily available. And there's a lot of guys that are in this industry now that have started Facebook pages, lots of conferences that aren't part of a van line or a larger empire, so that we are sharing these hidden secrets of how to be successful in business.
Tell me, what is the business model of a moving company?
There's so many reasons why someone starts a moving company is because in economics, if there is a crash, people go, I got to sell my house. So they got to move. If there's low interest rates and the housing market is great and people are buying and the market trend is looking up, I'm going to move. I'm going to buy a better house, right? I'm moving from my apartment finally to buy a townhouse or buy a house, or I'm moving across the country for a job. People are always moving. It's just the same thing, like people need to eat, right? So why do you have lots of grocery stores? Why does, companies like Walmart are like the biggest superstores out there? Because they look at what someone needs and then they add the additional consumables on there, right? What additional things? So most people go, today, and always cut me off if I'm start rambling, but at today's opportunities that are out there, you can easily build a website. You can get a truck. If you have a good personality, a good mindset, a good business ethic, I think that's the biggest thing that you have to find. You can get a truck and you can start a moving company tomorrow. Go get a domain name, build a website. Like by next week, I could have a moving company ready to go. It's about building then relationships. It's about working in your community in order to grow that moving company. But one of the biggest things that I've seen where moving companies fail is when they were on the truck, they wanted to do their own thing, but they didn't have the business sense of how to run the business. And one of the best advices that I ever was given to me from another moving company owner around our age, actually younger, much more well established, has blown up his moving company into many franchises. There's multiple locations here in Vancouver. I said, how do you do it? He goes, I learned to be the best delegator possible. I learned that if I didn't know how to do something, I would find someone that knew how to do it and have them execute it. And I learned to pull myself out instead of being and realizing that I was the bottleneck in so many different areas. In order for my company to grow, I had to focus on just being the visionary. And that's where a lot of business owners fail. They're the block for the company to grow, and they become the bottleneck. Yeah. And they go, no, it's my way or the highway. And I've started to pull myself back a lot in my businesses to go, look, I'm not very good in the accounting side of things, or I'm not very good in this part of the divisions of our company. I need these people in place in order to take the company to the next level, but also to buy back my time. And I think that's also super important as well as business owners is we end up working 70, 80 hours a week. I remember listening to a guest that was on your podcast where he said, as I was building my business, I was missing out on my children's opportunities. And sure, my kids looked at, oh, my dad's so successful and he's doing this, he's doing that. But I was missing the moments in my children's lives that I'll never get back. Yeah. And I think it's so important, especially as a business owner and you have a young family, you need to prioritize and you need to block time. And that's where I started sitting down on Sundays going, I need to make sure my times are blocked. I need to find out what's the most important to me in my life. And if that's my wife and children, then I need to make sure that they are a priority and they're top notch. So
yeah. I like that. Let's talk about the families a little bit later on. What about the storage business? What's the model?
When it comes to moving, you usually start with going, I'm going to do local COD, right? So cash on demand, that means I'm doing a household move. That's your apartment moves, your household moves. And then you start realizing customers need storage. And so you start either outsourcing and working with a local storage facility. We have amazing storage facilities that are located here in Vancouver and great partnership programs. So
you have a referral program.
You have a referral program. Then you start going, well, okay, this happened to me. I had about 12 or 15 storage clients that we were passing off, to a storage facility, and realize when you add up each of these clients and what they're paying for, and let's just use easy numbers. So let's say altogether it was bringing in $5,000 a month. Well, that's when you start looking at a warehouse space that might be around $5,000 a month for storage. And you have a couple different models that you can do. A lot of people start off with going, I'm just going to tape off, or I'm going to get some gates, we're going to section off these areas. So it's as wide as this table. This is my customer. It's a 5x10. You walk your feet points or get the tape measures out, and you have storage, and you build that up. The other option is you start getting storage vaults. And a storage vault is like a wooden box crate that you'd see. And they're typical standards, like a 7x7x8. And sometimes you're lucky and you can find a moving company that wants to get new ones and they want to sell their old ones. And that's a great other model to get started with.
And then there's the best model.
And then there's the best model, which is the self-storage. If you have the cash flow and have the money available to you, or you can get the funding to purchase a self-storage unit, that's your best model, which is getting a plot of land. You can either have the drive-in model where, you can put down, and it's an easy way to start. You can get the 20 and 40 foot sea cans. You can get a 10x10 sea can, and that can range you from $1,500 to $4,000 a piece, which will pay for itself in the long run over 2-3 years. And you can put those vaults down, or the storage containers down, and have that property, have it laid out so that you can drive around with your vehicle or back in and rent those out. Best case scenario. That's your best model. The other model is trying to build your own self-storage, but now you're looking at quite a hefty expense. Here in British Columbia, you find a storage facility for sale, you're typically not going to. It is very insider scoop. So you have to look at what makes sense. It's very expensive with land, with property, but my always suggestion is don't ever, if you're going to get into a warehouse, find something with less than 20 feet of ceiling, because you pay for the land. You don't pay for the air. So the best advice, the higher the better, because you can now stack those storage vaults on top of each other, and now you can go 3 high, 4 high. 4 high is scary, but at least 3 high, and now you're making triple the profit on one, 100 square feet of land.
And what is the biggest challenge that you have seen, not only you, but other people that have come on our podcast?
Let's talk here, British Columbia, Canada. This Canadian dream. So let's discuss that. Ever since COVID came about, there's been a constant inflation with the rising of hourly wages, having employees that want to work. We found that a lot more immigrants that have come over from overseas that come in, they want to work, but they don't want to work that hard. Or some of them do, but then those that are Canadian born, hardworking, don't want to be doing this in the industry anymore. And so labor becomes a huge problem when it comes to the moving industry. The other is the constant increases of tariff prices, getting supplies, having customers understand that the rising costs of our warehouse increases storage, it increases everything. So we look at today, how much is our fuel right now? So there's fuel costs and fuel prices that go into play as well too for the trucks to operate. These are all these crazy expenses that then rise up to this is what your hourly rate is. One of the biggest things that I tell customers all the time is it says, look, we're not the cheapest, but you are getting the expertise, you are getting professionally trained movers that have been doing this for a long time, and the transparency from point A to point B, where you go, man, I didn't mind spending a little bit extra because I was well taken care of. Right. And that's where there's a big difference in the moving industry, where a lot of guys just fly by night, they start their companies, they come in, they offer an extremely low price for 2 guys in a truck. You look at it going, I don't know how you can operate day to day on these hourly rates. And most of the customers go, it was okay. Or B, they were completely ripped off and told a different price at the end. Can you imagine going to a restaurant? You are given an amount. You look at the menu, and then after you're given a bill that's 3 times as much. Going, I had the same service, but this is not what I signed up for. Why is my bill this much? You're never going to want to use them again. You are completely dissatisfied, distasteful, and nothing gets done about it. The restaurant keeps moving on every single day until eventually it catches on and they go out of business, and you go, man, why I wish I would have served this company instead. So
do you think these challenges that you mentioned, people understanding the pricing, finding labor, etc., are these the challenges that you see from people who come on your podcast, also from the States and other parts of Canada?
100%. Yeah. I see this a lot. And that's one of the best things about having podcasts, like we chatted earlier about, is you get this opportunity to get a perspective from so many different business owners that are in different areas across North America, that have a lot of the same struggles in their own areas. And they also, you talk to some that don't have the opportunity for community engagement. You also look at some that go, man, they're in a nicer weather geographically environment, that there are farmers markets and there are trade shows and events for them to advertise 1,000 times more than in Vancouver, where you have 2 months out of the year to do filming or do any kind of outside community, because we have such a change in weather all the time. So you get to see those experiences on podcasts.
And why did you start the podcast?
Movified Podcast, yeah.
What was the idea behind it? Is it because you wanted to increase your personal brand profile? Is it because you wanted to connect with other people in the industry? Or is it because you wanted your end consumer to hear about you, and when they think about moving or storage, Movified Podcast, this is the guy I'm going to look for?
Where's that button for says all of the above, right?
Yeah,
Is this the multiple choice question?
But was it because of your background in marketing and sales?
It was the summer of 2023. I was 5 years into Salmons, of owning it, and I had kind of lost myself as a business owner. And I had to learn where my role was as the new owner. And I was losing a sense of creativity, because you were now taking over a company that has been around for 100 years. Their branding is there. There's not much to do except get out and market it. And my wife came to me and goes, well, like in the summertime, goes, you seem just so depressed, and what's happening? And I said, I just feel like I've lost this creativeness, and I don't know how to move forward. I just don't know what to do. And I go to a conference, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, we go to these conferences all the time. There's usually some type of lunch or dinner, and you're networking and you're talking, and most of us have some crazy stories to share, or a lot of the same complaints. And no one is, to me and you, we could sit here and talk about some issues that we have with cameras, and we said, this mic doesn't work, and between you and me, we're having this problem with how we're operating our podcast. But there's probably 1,000 other people out there that are running into the same problem that we're talking about right now. So why aren't we recording it and sharing with everybody? And he says, well, I have an iPhone 15, Max Pro, whatever, and I have these 2 little mics that I bought off Amazon. He goes, why don't we're at this VIP lunch on the golf course, we just grab some people and wing it. Like, let's just do, if you want to do a podcast, let's record it. ChatGPT had just come out. I was just learning about this. And so I went on chat, I figured out a name. I'm designing a logo. I get to design, the thumbnails, and I was using Canva because Canva was new. I said, this is unbelievable. And that's kind of how the podcast evolved. I started, going, man, if I can get one person every 2 weeks and just be consistent with an episode every 2 weeks, I'm rolling. I'm happy. And I realized I get to now take this creative marketing side of me and have fun with it.
I invite on the podcast people that I would like to connect with in real life, or that I already know, but I would like to mentor me or to learn about their experience, they get to come here on my own terms and answer all the questions I may have. And then after here, we're probably going to be in touch. It's just texting. Like today I was texting, I showed you, I was texting with the mayor of Niagara Falls, who, already came on the Canadian Dream podcast. And how cool is that?
It's amazing.
And you mentioned entrepreneurship is lonely, or it can get lonely. So that's the point where I wanted to get. How has that changed for you? You were already talking about this, how you got your creativity back and your motivation back. But let's talk about the point of loneliness as a leader and how this has helped you and how you are feeling today.
I thought I was on my own. And I just was hitting this roof all the time, going, I don't know if I can learn or have the experience, or I just did not have the ability to go, I don't want to ask these questions because I feel like I'm going to be acting stupid. People go, well, you've been doing this for 10 years, you should know. And one of the biggest things when I purchased Salmon's was I looked at the previous owner going, you've been doing this for over 40 years. Man, you've built this amazing business. You're handing the reins over to me. I need to have all the answers. If I come to you with a question, I'm going to feel like an idiot. You might look back and go, why did I ever sell it to this guy? He doesn't even know, what a tariff is and what this is and what that is. And what the podcast has allowed me to have is the ability to ask the questions that are pressing on my mind to industry leaders that I normally would not have the opportunity to ask, or go up to someone at a conference and go, hey, like I'm Mark Hirschi and I own this and I do this. And there was this confidence level that wasn't there, that because of having this podcast and going and putting myself out there has built up my self-esteem. It has built up a network that I have readily available on my phone that I could reach out to anyone going, hey, do you have 5-10 minutes to chat? And they go, sure, no problem. Whereas before they'd be like, who are you? Like I don't know you. You're up in Vancouver. I'm down here. But now I'll never forget. I had a interview actually for being part of an office moving association, and the gentleman that was interviewing me had asked me a bunch of questions. And as you get from my personality, I'm a little bit all over the map, and I'm talking here and I'm talking there. And he pulls up this piece of paper when I'm done, and he goes, "You see all these notes?" He goes, "I was talking with someone as part of our group that I said, does anybody know who Mark Hirschi is?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I know who he is. Can I ask you a couple questions?" He goes, "These were all of these notes that he gave me. And basically this is exactly who you are that I'm watching in our meeting." And I said, "Oh, who was that?" He gives me the name. Well, funny enough, I had interviewed him on a little short segment that I did on the podcast randomly, that I said, "Hey, do you have 5 minutes? Can you talk?" And then we started talking after, and we built this relationship. And I said, "Oh yeah, he was on my podcast." He goes, "Oh really? That's so crazy. He didn't mention that, but he knew who you were." And it's from having this outreach and community. And I wear today a t-shirt, Movified Nation.
Yeah, what I wanted to ask you, is that how this evolved?
It's grown to a point where I was never in it to go, "Oh, I'm going to build a podcast. I want to make lots of money." Right? I want to be, people joke, goes, "You're like the Joe Rogan of the moving industry," right? I guess because I'm bald and he's bald and we're both pretty eccentric type of people. But it was never a sense to go, "Oh, this is a new career for me. I'm going to money making. I'm going to blow up on YouTube and be a big influencer." It was, I want to share knowledge and I want to build a community that wasn't out there when I was starting out, but there's an opportunity now that we can start out.
So what is Movified Nation?
So Movified Nation was now taking, we have two others that are part of it. Stephen Reed, who owns Big League Movers. He's out in Memphis, Tennessee. He co-hosts with me on Wednesdays and also is the owner of ReadyRolls.com. So if you're ever looking for a VA, anybody that's listening, go check out ReadyRolls.com. And then I have another moderator for the mastermind group, which is for Movified, which is Prob here. He's the COO of You Move Me. And Prob and myself curate these mastermind groups that take 6 to 8 business owners that are doing over $1 million in business and revenue a year. So they are somewhat established. And we get together, we lead the topics, we moderate it. I kind of almost moderate it like a podcast in a sense, but we go through a topic that every business owner has homework. We get to share what's going on in our day-to-day lives, but we also have homework to do. And it's interesting always to see each business owner that has the same topic generally has a totally different answer of what's going on in their business. And we get to learn and experience that. And so Movified Nation's been grown with a mastermind group, but also community. You know, we've just come out with an app that's coming out. It allows our community to engage with each other. My biggest thing was talking to a guy that has one truck, you know, and only $500,000 in sales, that is trying to buy the moving pads or moving supplies at the same rate that the guy who owns 20 trucks and does 20 million gets a huge discount on. Well, how can we get him a break on discounts? How can we let the small moving companies get the same information, the same access to health benefits, maybe truck insurance, commercial liability insurance, the way that the $70 million moving company has instant access?
So there's only 6 or 8 of you? How many did you say?
Right now we have 3 mastermind groups together. So all together there is about 22, 23 of us.
Is it all virtually? Or do you
virtual meetings? A lot of us end up meeting at multiple different moving conferences. And then there's also that sense of community because then we get to know each other. So that also helps when it comes to networking, because you go to these conferences a lot of times and you don't know anybody. But if we have the community, we all can get together and go, hey, let me introduce you to so-and-so. Hey, let me introduce you over to here. And I say it on all my podcasts when I'm remotely going, if you're at this conference, come find me. I will introduce you to whoever you want to, because I have no problem and no shame in walking up to someone going, hey, let's chat.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about, family. So you have 3 kids. You've been married for 10 years.
So 6 months into being married, we started fostering Indigenous children that came into our house, and we had a 2 and a 3-year-old, 2 boys, and we raised them for about 8 years. And between that, we had our son, Wolf. Shout out to you, buddy. And he was, you know, when a lot of people have their first child, you almost become that helicopter parent, always super protective. He was like that 3rd kid that you have that you're like, nah, you're fine, you're good. We have 2 more to deal with. And it really caught it to teach him independence. He became very independent very fast, which is a fantastic trait to have. But then we had fertility issues. We went for a second one, and then we ended up having a 3rd one. In between that, at one point, we probably had 5 kids, maybe 6 kids in our house, whether they were foster children or our own biological children, while running a business.
I see why you had problems managing your time.
For sure. So you start to learn, I need to manage my time better. And when people actually sit down, and you said about journaling, when people start writing that stuff down, you actually start realizing you actually have a lot more time available to focus on what matters most. And you are wasting a lot of time with frivolous shit, to be honest with you, that doesn't mean a lot. And you're just sharpening the pencil.
So now you have a wife, you have a few kids.
Yes.
You have a few businesses.
Yes.
You have a podcast, this community. What motivates you the most? Where does the energy come from when you wake up?
My family.
Your family?
My family.
Is it the wife or is it the kids?
Well, you know, we joked. You said you have a very nice, kind wife that allows you to, you know, have the presence and the drive. My wife and I, we balance ourselves out very well, because she's the manifester. She's very type A. She, is the driven one, but then also looks back and goes, you need a vacation. You need this time. You need to take off this weekend. Go away and, go in a dark room and turn everything off and then come back and be re-energized.
It's very nice of her.
It's great. She's the one that really makes sure that I am taking care of myself, instead of just running down this horrible entrepreneurship rabbit hole that we go into, where it easily can lead into drugs, alcohol, depression, that cohesiveness of going, like I'm all alone and I have nobody, and it's a very dark place to run into.
And at home, what values do you try to teach your kids? What does Wolf know well at this age? How old is Wolf? 8?
Wolf is 8, turning 9. Wolf is also the owner of our vending machine at Salmon's and our candy machine. When I started changing my mindset as I watched my kids watching me, your kids are sponges. They watch everything you do. You want to sit there and sit on a couch watching a show all day? You want to sit there dictating to your partner, you do this, I only do this. You want to be a workaholic? That's all they're ever going to know. My kids know that when I come home in the mornings, at 7 o'clock, before, when I wasn't just showering and carrying on with my day at the gym, oh, Daddy was at the gym, right? So they know that's what's going on. We have a gym inside of our house. My kids on a Saturday morning will grab the 5-pound weights, and my daughter, who's 3, will pick the 2-pound weights up and do curls with me, because being healthy and being physically active is part of their environment. My children, especially Wolf, I said, well, when you come to the office with me, you're somehow always wheeling and dealing with the office staff. Do you have a quarter? And do you have a quarter? And do you have a quarter so you can buy some in the vending machine? So I said, well, one of our drivers owns the vending machine. Why don't you talk to him about buying the vending machine? So for his birthday and Christmas, he told everybody, can you just give me money as a Christmas gift or a birthday gift? And so he had built up some money in his bank account. And then I made him go up to this gentleman and go, I'd like to buy your vending machine. How much? And so I prepped him up prior, the driver, and said, hey, why don't you sell him the vending machine and we'll let this happen. But then he had to go to the bank and take the money out, and I covered the difference. And then we said, okay, what do you want to put in this vending machine? So then he had to learn how to count money. What does money look like? You had to manage inventory, right? What's going to sell, what's not going to sell. And then as the months progressed, he had to look at what was a hot seller, what wasn't working. How does that work like? And he had to manage his money in business and go to the bank, deposit that money, take money out to buy new inventory. Dad somehow kept, buying more inventory in his bank account. His bank account kept rising, but I was the one at Costco buying the products. But it gave him a sense of how running a business is like. And I encourage anybody that has a child that is around that 7 or 8 year mark, go on Facebook Marketplace, go type in the candy machine, and go purchase a candy machine, go into the bulk aisle, go to Bulk Barn or the Save On Foods that sells bulk goods. Get your child to, purchase the candy that they want to put in there, and go to your local doctor's office, go to your local church, 100%. Go to your local church. That's a great way to start, especially if you go to, whether you go to it or not, and say, hey, do you mind if my child sets up this candy machine here? It's probably cost you $150 investment to get started. And then they have to go back there and they have to go and count their quarters and see what's working, what's not. But it's going to teach them a sense. Hey, why don't you come up and design a name? I had a friend of mine that said, my child wanted to learn how to make their own slime. So I made them go on Google Gemini. They had to come up with a business name. They had to design a logo. They had to create what that tent would look like. And then we started building our own slime at home. And then they would go to a farmer's market and set up a shop. And that was a business. You're not getting taught this in school. You need to have your child learn this. I had a conversation, now I'm going on a tangent, but I had a conversation with a teenager in a car from a dance studio. They were neighbors, a child that was giving me a ride home. I said, what do you want to do when you grow up? And what do you want to do when I was at school? Oh, I was thinking about working for an interior design magazine company. I said, well, why wouldn't you just start your own? Oh, I never thought about that. Well, here's probably some of the steps that you should do. Hey, you've been doing dance for 10 years. Why aren't you going to your local clothing stores, like a Lululemon, but like a locally sourced provider, and says, hey, I am in a lot of dance studios, dance facilities, and I do a lot of shows. Can you give me a discount on wearing your product? I'll wear your product, and I'll bring the other girls that are in these dances to wear your product as well too, and we can help promote your clothing line, but you let me have my clothing for free. Now you're an influencer for this market and you get clothing for free. Oh, I never thought about that. There's so many different avenues and ways you can market it that teenagers and kids are not being taught this in school at all.
No, I love this. So you mentioned you're teaching your kids to be healthy. You were teaching your kids about how to deal with money, how to think about money, how to sell. With my son too, Max, last Christmas, I have some cousins here in Vancouver. They came over, and my business partner, a friend, and my son, he was preparing for that Christmas party for a few days. He illustrated, so he drew a few pictures, and then he priced them accordingly. There were the black and white ones,
right,
and there were the colored ones, and the ones with the marker, with the metallic marker, etc. And so when he went to pick up his drawings, I distributed some coins and $5 and 20s to everybody. And he said, everybody has to buy something.
You better be buying something yet.
He came, my goodness, his Christmas. And a few days ago, he was talking about it. Yeah, remember when they bought it for $20? And I said, yeah, that was an awesome picture, blah, blah, blah. These things, they will never forget. I remember things from when I was 5, 6, and 7. And things that made me somehow become the person that I am today. Isn't it crazy?
There are core memories, right? That, having kids, we probably have both watched Inside Out, which is like a Disney movie about emotions and everything.
Yeah.
And you watch this, it's a beautiful movie. If you haven't watched it, you should really watch it because it talks about, these different time periods of a child's life, and the emotions that are going on. But they show these balls drop on going, this is a core memory. This is a core memory of something bad happening or something great happening. And to have these experiences with your children where you get to embed these core memories that they'll never forget. My son talks about coming to the Rotary or a BNI all the time, and also the business owners and the people that are usually at these networking events, they enjoy it as well too. But my son gets also the opportunity to be around adults, learn how to sit at a table. One of the best things you can ever teach your children is how to go to a nice restaurant and sit properly. Not with an iPad or anything else, but you sit properly and you learn how to put your napkin on your lap and use a fork and knife and engage in conversation as well too.
And now what we do is Max orders for everybody.
Yes, I love this now.
He orders,
I heard.
And there's a Brecca a few blocks from our place.
Yeah.
So when we go to Brecca, he knows it. I give him a $5 bill if he doesn't have his wallet with him. Right. If we plan on going beforehand, he brings his own wallet, Captain America wallet. Sure. And he knows it costs, I think, $275. Right. So in total, it's $297. And he knows he gets $3 back, or $2 back. $2 back from a $5 bill. And he knows how to order, etc. The first time he was freaking out, no, I don't want to do that. And now he goes and he wants to tell, look, I'm going to go and I'm going to order. Yeah, sure. These things are so important. Yeah. So we're talking about our kids and the values you want to pass on. I feel like now we're starting to talk about the things I actually wanted to talk about on the podcast. But I know you have to go soon.
What do you mean? I thought we were talking about all the good stuff for a lot.
Let's do this for a few more minutes. Now, what kind of person do you want people around you at workplace to see you as?
This is always one of the biggest issues, not even issues. This is one of the biggest tasks that any leader asks themselves. And I did a presentation once on risk as a leader. And it was really my timeline of the risks that I took, and where it's gotten me to today. A lot of being a business owner and being a leader to your employees is, what I've learned a lot is having a good culture and a good environment where I always want to teach my employees, my door is always open. There's nothing that you cannot come and talk to me about, whether it's life, whether it's about work, whatever the situation is, you can always come and talk to me. My door is always open. And that has helped me retain employees. That's also helped me understand employees, because each employee is different. Just because you have a bonus system in and you hand everybody maybe a monetary bonus doesn't mean that employee is happy.
And they don't respond equally.
They don't. You would be surprised to know that if you got to know your employees, that if maybe this one would really appreciates that $1,000 bonus, but the other one would have really appreciated 3 days vacation. The other one would have preferred to have 2 days paid time off. And you didn't have to give each one a monetary bonus. It's really your employees are your biggest assets. And I find that was one of my biggest takeaways from having a guest on a podcast that said that to me. He goes, you can have all the trucks that you want. You can have the warehouse, you can own whatever you have in your life. But as a business owner, your biggest assets are the employees, because they're the ones that are really running the ship. You might be on that ship and you're telling them, hey, this is the way to land. But they're the ones that are steering it. They're the ones with the oars. They're the ones that are making sure that boat is going to make it to the other side. And some of them don't, they'll jump off along the way. But those that will stay to the end are the ones that you need to be the most concerned about and ensure that they're treated the best. Mm-hmm. And so for myself, I always try and make sure that my employees know that I'm there for them, that I have their back, and that I will not be sometimes the leader that they want, but I have no problem standing there and apologizing for whatever mistakes that I've done along the way. And I've done that in staff meetings where I've said, look, I'm sorry. Like, I have not been the best leader, but I want to be, and I want to be more transparent, and I want to be, someone that is more accessible. But this is my vision. This is my goal. I need everybody to see that. And I'm someone that gets very distracted very easily, and it gets pulled into many different areas. So there's times where shortcomings and falls might happen, but know that I mean well and I want to be the best I can.
I have the best interest of all of you in mind.
Exactly.
On that note, what do you think would be maybe one of the biggest mistakes you have made in your business career? If it's not a lesson you learned from a mistake you made, maybe a lesson you learned from watching someone else, or maybe from someone that came on your podcast.
Over-promising, under-delivering.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, sure. Oh, right. Getting some more water here.
Love it.
Oh, guys. One day I'll have a podcast with Franco. This guy is amazing. Thank you so much.
Talk about who you need to have, right? But again,
talking about the best assets
that's
you have.
That's right.
Yeah,
and Franco's is amazing. Yeah. And he's been a pleasure to deal with. Yeah. You get to keep your job for another day. No, I'm joking.
The mistake.
The mistake of really over-promising and under-delivering. Yeah. And one of the biggest characteristics I have is I am a bit of a people pleaser. I want to make sure that everybody's happy. Everybody's having a good time. right? It's that fat boy syndrome of being a fat kid when you're younger and going, I just want everybody, I want to be friends with everybody. And my wife loves to put me in my place. She goes, listen, you are better off to set lower expectations of what you can achieve and then just over deliver when that comes up. And I think that goes for a lot of business owners where we want everything to be successful. We tell everybody that the sky is blue and the sun is shining and tomorrow's gonna be fantastic. And we set these expectations out. We need to deliver on them. And if we keep falling short, we lose credibility. And that was one of the biggest things that I learned over the last couple of years that I need to stop doing, because there's only so many hours in a day. There's only so many things that you can do. And you have to learn to say no. Your best attribute that you can ever learn is to start saying no to a lot of people and a lot of opportunities that come your way. Because if you just constantly are the yes man, you will always underdeliver and overpromise.
Yeah, I love that. I have one question multiplied by 3 here.
Okay.
What would be your piece of advice to young adults? You can look at the camera if you want.
I think with the way technology is moving so fast every single day, that we all have this sense of, shiny object syndrome. And especially as young adults that are looking through this AI lens and constantly being, I wouldn't say so much manipulated, but you have this view of life through the lens of Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, all of this social media where you go, wow, I want to be like so-and-so. And look how beautiful this life is. And the reality is that isn't their life. And you need to start looking at what you want in life and aim for one thing. Achieve that one goal and then move on to the next. We are constantly seeing these shiny objects. We want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this. Or we get influenced by so many different things that are out there, and we lose sight of where our target is, like what is our actual goal. And I think as young adults, we need to actually turn things off and go, what do I actually want in life? And try and start figuring it out. In your early 20s, you are going to be open to so many different things. Your career could change 1,000 different, there's so many things out there. But you need to find out what you want, what you like, and then try it out. If that doesn't work, start trying something else. Don't ever say, you said one thing, I'm going to try it. Don't ever say to yourself, I can't do it. I think one of the best advices that I heard, on a podcast, and it was a famous actor that said, my parents would scold me. Like I almost was going to get a beating if I said I can't do it, because there's always a way that you can do it. And don't ever be small-minded on what your dream career is or what your goal is, because you can, and there's people that know how to do it. So find those people and achieve that dream.
I would add to it that it's important to become really good at something.
Yes.
The younger, the better. I was an athlete at an early age, very good at illustrating as well. I'm sure you were good at something at a very early age as well. And that sets the bar, and that's how confidence is built. Confidence is built on having achieved what you set out to do, right? And knowing that you're capable of doing it again and again and again. That's why so many successful business owners move on to other businesses and become successful over and over and over and over again. For example, and athletes too. Usually, you would be shocked that the Olympian in, say, volleyball is also an amazing basketball player, and amazing at this, and amazing at running, and amazing at long distance and short distance and long jump, all these things. Second question is, what would be your piece of advice to newcomers, to immigrants who have just arrived in Canada and are still finding their way on this promised land of opportunities?
Call me. I can give you some advice. I can help you along the way. There are so many opportunities, and it goes back to the idea. I've moved into this country that I don't know. My best advice is go out and find a community. Whether it's a community group, you are looking for a business, go visit a local chamber group. Go visit a local BNI group. If you don't even own a business, it doesn't matter. Meetups. There's so many, like go on a Facebook group. There's the groups that are like Vancouver meetups, business groups or a walking group. Because as soon as you can get yourself involved in a group that you like, maybe you love chess and you want to find a local chess group. That person that you're going to sit with or that group of people, they also love the hobby that you love, but they also come from many different walks of lives. And you'd be so surprised to know that the person sitting next to you was also an immigrant that came in maybe 5 or 10 years ago and maybe has an opportunity for you in this line of work or know somebody they can introduce you to. And that is building community and being involved with something you either love and you can socialize and chat and network. You got to get out there and network. You have to get out of your comfort zone. It's getting out of your comfort zone, just like people joke and say, oh, I got out of my comfort zone. Well, you actually didn't. You didn't push the limits. You didn't do something differently. People will go, I don't like to be on camera. I don't know about doing it, but I don't mind someone taking a photo of me. Start filming yourself. Get your camera out and just start filming yourself, getting out of your comfort zone. And you'll start realizing, like your son, oh, I don't mind being in front of the camera. Oh, I don't mind doing this, because you've now done it a bunch of times and maybe you've gotten a couple good compliments out of it. You got to get out of your comfort zone, especially if you're new to Canada and you're looking and you're stuck and you're in a rut.
I just remembered now, it's totally off topic here, but it's my podcast. I talk about whatever I want, right?
Go for it.
Man, Max, 6 years old. He's so used to the Canadian Dream podcast. I don't know if he understands what it is like, who these people are. He sees people on YouTube. He sees me on YouTube, sometimes on our big screen at home. It's probably the same with your kids, right? Like, is daddy a celebrity or is this just normal?
Right.
And then a few days ago, he asked me, we love Mr. Beast, and we're watching the Mr. Beast games.
You watch the Beast games as well, too.
And then he goes and he keeps arguing with me that I should bring Mr. Beast on my podcast.
My son actually said, can you go on Mr. Beast games, the show? And I looked it up and to apply. And I was like, I don't really.
It's easier for us to go on Mr. Beast games
than to get him to come on our podcast. Yeah, good luck. Yeah, sure.
But for me, it was easy. Oh, Max, Mr. Beast, he's from the States. He's American. This is the Canadian Dream podcast. We can have other people, okay?
Well, it's a good pivot. That's a great way.
Last piece of advice for those people who are a little bit more off, a little bit crazier like us, who want to start a business. Sure. In 2026, and maybe who have been dreaming of having their own business or doing their own thing in life, whatever it may be. Sure. It could even be transferring to another company or changing careers. What would be your piece of advice?
You don't have to find something that you love, but you should find something that is a necessity. There are so many opportunities in career, like entrepreneurial jobs to get into. The easiest ways that I found today is to get into a trade. Trades, seem to be dying, but it's also a great opportunity right now where there are so many baby boomers that just want to get out. Their kids don't want to take over the business. They just want to retire. They're looking for someone to buy their business. And it's a great opportunity today for individuals to get in super cheap and buy these businesses and then innovate them. Most of them don't have a CRM system. Most of them don't have proper marketing in there. They have went stagnant for years, and you can get in there super cheap and blow that business out of the water. I don't know, right? Like go. It's don't be lazy. I don't know. It's hard.
Great. What should people do if they want to find you?
Sure. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, but the easiest way, just under Mark Hirschi, the easiest way to find me is if you go to movifiednation.com. That's MOVIFIED nation.com. And boom, right there. And you can find my contact details and my information on there, or you can follow me on the Movified Podcast. And if you're locally and if you're looking for professional moving services, whether it is from packing, moving, long distance, overseas, international, delivery, event, we do it all. We are the Ferrari, the McLarens of the industry. You can find me on salmonsmoving.com, or you can check us out at lsmoving.com as well too.
Great.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Before I let you go, here's a present for you.
Oh, thank you.
Our skincare line from Prime Renders. It's another business that I own with a business partner. Who's
Were
not
you
here
noticing
today.
that my skin was a bit dry or something? You're just making sure?
Tallow based. That's why
Tallow-based.
I asked if you're a vegetarian.
Oh, yeah. My wife was talking about this. She's going to love this because she heard about this.
There you
too.
go.
Yeah, thank you.
There
I
you
got
go.
a gift to bring home to her.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
And thank you for sticking with us until the end of another episode of the Canadian Dream Podcast. I will see you on the next episode.